terms of drafting.
This is definitely a matchup which would be a true test of anything they decide to try. I mean, Gankstars are no slouches. They're very strong as a team. I think they finished 4th last week against Tempo Storm, if I recall correctly. But, you know, Team Solo Mid, if they try something wacky, they got to be careful about being punished by Gankstars. And they haven't quite locked in Bacon, right? Their spot in the top 2. I feel like it's a bit risky to do that right now.
Yeah, they're very, very close to guaranteeing themselves a first-round bye, but they're not quite there yet. And this is also a team that we've historically seen them say, like, you know, we just really want to make sure we deny as many points as possible away from certain opponents. So I expect they're going to still just bring their absolute best here.
So the Lyra band comes out. I like the Glaive band because that's something that TSM does pick on B side often as a first pick. I think here Gankstars will probably take the Lances. Rect is so strong in Lance. TSM has an option here to pick Adagio, but I think they might go with the Gwen since Gwen is so meta and Gwen is actually really good into Lance, so they definitely want to secure Gwen, especially into a Lance composition. So let's see what they decide. Yep, they decide to secure the Gwen. They may ban out something that counters Gwen, potentially Taka if they don't want to face a Taka with a Lance, or even Koshka if they don't want Koshka with Lance on A side, which is a typical ban on B side when the A side team picks Lance first. So let's see what TSM decides here.
I find it really interesting that Team Solo Mid is locking in that Gwen first pick. We saw it once earlier on today with Hammers, if I recall correctly. And it's definitely one of those picks which is very strong, but we've talked before about how, you know, in lane it can be countered by certain things. It's interesting that they would put so much weight on it this early.
Yeah, so Koshka is banned here. Gankstars will most likely ban a key support they don't want to deal with. So that could be anywhere from Fortress to Finn to Arden to Adagio. I think Adagio ban might come out, or Samuel potentially if they don't want the Gwen-Samuel combination that's so strong. Or even Kestrel if they don't want to deal with Kestrel. But I feel like they want Kestrel on Iraqi on A side here. So let's see what Gankstars decide. But I feel like they want to ban away a jungler they don't want to deal with.
Yeah. It would make a lot of sense. They're going to take away the Taka. So that is one of the junglers being focused. And again, kind of leads you to believe they may want the Samuel for their pickup.
Yeah, so TSM's wide open. They can pick Samuel or CP Kestrel here. Baron is open for Gankstars, though, and I feel like they are setting themselves up for a Baron pick with Lance. It's such a good pick with Baron there. Such a great composition, and Baron counters Gwen hard late game. So TSM will pick the CP Kestrel since the range does give a good matchup against Baron. So I feel like Gankstars will most likely take the Baron here with the Lance, and they have options in jungle. For example, they can do Samuel with Baron, which is pretty strong, especially when they get to the late game with Lance helping them with the early game. So let's see what they decide to pick here. They also can do Grumpjaw CP if they want and go with like a Ringo composition, but it's a little risky into a Kestrel and Gwen. So I think that what makes the most sense for Gankstars is probably Baron with a good jungler like Samuel that can do AoE.
Yeah, Samuel, or they could potentially go for a Black Feather, although that is somewhat risky with the Gwen, being able to slow him down a bit, and unless you get the overdrive on the A, and it just becomes very skill dependent, which obviously we know Xenotech does have the skill.
I was about to say, I mean, even in the game that they lost last week against Tempo Storm, I was sitting there saying, man, Xenotech is just a monster on this Black Feather. He can really make it happen. But it's going to be Sky and Ringo. This is really new from Gankstars, the Sky especially.
So the Sky is going to be a skill matchup against the CP Kestrel, but CP Kestrel does outrange the Sky. However, if they get a good Impale, Sky and Ringo can do a lot of damage onto either Gwen or CP Kestrel here. So I think TSM might opt for Arden or Adagio potentially. I don't think they'll pick the Adagio though, because Adagio isn't really good against a Lance support. So most likely they'll go for like Grumpjaw, Arden, or even Catherine. But Catherine is countered by Sky. So they actually go for Flicker. Flicker into Lance is a very interesting pick because Lance is actually good against Flicker. He can beat him off, but you can also make a lot of plays with Flicker based on the timing of his Binding Light.
With this composition, I mean, they're running Flicker double range. Fnatic did this over in Europe. Isn't this a little bit more about dealing with their engages upon you than necessarily setting up your own? Because you don't want to run in with that Kestrel and Gwen necessarily, right? Like, you want to be kiting a bit more.
Yeah, and I think that with Flicker, you have his slow, and you also have Gwen's slow. And if Monty gets Frostburn on Kestrel, that's another slow that they can put on there, and that's really dangerous if Flicker locks Ringo or Sky down. Sky can Suri strike out of it, but Ringo, if he gets caught in a binding light, he's pretty much toast.
All right, Team Still Mid, for them to pick up this flicker, you got to feel that they have a plan in mind. Every single time they've picked it up, they have won. They are 5-0 with this hero pick, so they're very careful about when they pull it out, but when they have picked it up, they have gotten the wins.
All right, guys, who do you think is going to take home this series? It's definitely a bit of a tougher one for me to predict, given how both of these teams have finished first.
I think Team Still Mid has won 3 times against Gankstars already. That trend is going to continue.
Yeah, I think with Vainglory8 and CP Castro and the execution of this comp and the synergy, they're going to take it away.
All right, well, let's find out who does win this one. It is our last series of the day for North America, handing it on over to Dowsey and Forecourt Jester.
And what a big matchup this is. This has so much importance for the end game standings for both these teams. We're going to see Invade from TSM FlashX. Going to catch Wrecked out and slows him on down. He will be able to get on out with the boosts from the boost. And that's going to be a Treant stolen there by TSM. But man, you know, FlashX's flicker, when we see it, it's always a treat.
Yeah, absolutely. And some really big early aggression is going to be the name of this game for TSM.
Oh, wow. He's just tanking up that forward barrage. Doesn't care. Wrecked. This time doesn't have the boots for the boost. But he will be able to walk away. You know what? I kind of see where FlashX is going with this flicker. You've got a Sky and a Ringo that you want to get on top of, but you've drafted double range, so you don't really have huge engage potential. So you pop the Moon Cloak at an advantageous time, get that Kestrel up close, get that Gwen up close, because you're not in... I don't feel like you've got huge risk of the Kestrel being blown up instantaneously, so you can kind of get away with it.
Okay, well, we'll have to see, because if you do actually use that, the Moon Cloak, and you get nice and close, like Best Chuck can be your engage, FlashX can be your engage, like even Von C doesn't really need the Moon Cloak, but late game into that Crystal Castro, if he can sneak up on somebody just by himself, he can immediately put down that active camo, blow someone up with the 4 Glimmer shots because they're stunned. So I actually think that there's quite a bit of engage here for TSM ready to roll. And FlashX, I mean, just bush ganks for days. That's all this is going to be. Von C very likely alone in his jungle, and that has to be something that Xenotech and perhaps even Wrecked, I feel like that they gotta do something about it. Like, I don't really feel they're gonna get much done in the lane.
I'll have to find out. You just see Xenotech rotating up for a gank, but actually Araki's in trouble as he gets slowed and the Glimmer shots rain down hell. That's gonna be first blood going the way of Von C, and that double stealth in the lane is always a trick to deal with. You're gonna have to have perfect vision from Wrecked if he's gonna be able to deal with it in this game.
No, well, it might take a little bit for that vision to come online. Again, just more harass here in the lane. Best Chuck going to start coming quite a bit ahead at this point. I mean, Araki Zoro, the long walk of shame back into the lane, right? But 7 last hits. He's going to clean up a few of them here, but it's just going to be, again, rinse, repeat, aggression. You do the jungle rotation, Von C comes up, double stealth. You got Gwen, if we can accelerate to level 6 as well. You're going to have one-shots from anywhere, and that's a Crystal Kestrel. If she gets cooldown reduction by, mid-late game, they're just going to be raining down.
Yeah, they are going to be raining down fire. This is scary stuff, and with that buckshot connected, that could have been trouble, but they are going to be able to get their recalls in. TSM, their early rotational play, pushing this wave in to try and deny as much farm from Araki Zoro.
It's almost Von C sharing the farm in the lane. Is most of it went over to Chuck. Von C did pick up a few, but again, pushing in.
Pushing in. Xenotech comes up, lays down a bit of fire with the forward barrage, but it's just to buy space for Araki more than anything.
And Xenotech early on, like with the Sky, can definitely be scary in a 1v1 situation. Can be definitely scary into that late game, but as long as Flash does not neglect the fact that he needs a little bit of shielding, he's going to be able to tank up quite a bit of the damage that Xenotech will put out. And it's very measured damage, right? There's not very big spikes with a Crystal Sky. She's going to be throwing down the forward barrages, looking for the reposition, more forward barrage, and Flash can really be a shield for the team up against that early on. And so far it's worked out great, because 4 minutes in, Best Chuck picks up a Tension Bow.
Yep, Tension Bow on this Gwen. So much damage that can come out with the passive on the Gwen. We're going to see another gank. The stealth squad onto Araki as he gets sniped, but Wrecked with a clutch Giffian Wall will knock away the perpetrators, and that's going to be Arakizora safe for now.
Rekt is just really trying to make sure his team is survivable at this point.
Yeah, gonna go very low as Vonce's in trouble. Xenotech trying to lay down the damage, but he can't. Flash X dives forward. Oh god, where did Xenotech go? And a route onto Iraqi, but he gets away. No, it doesn't. The one shot came out, but it was all a distraction as Best Chuck was right in his face laying down the pain. This turret, it's gone. It's done and dusted. TSM, they're just styling over Gankstars in this early game, and it's all down to the stealth, man. Flash X and Vonsea just able to sneak into the lane unnoticed, and Araki essentially has to play like Vonsea and Flash X are constantly in the lane. That's how he has to play.
Well, he's also going to have a hard time pushing forward for farm. If we do freeze it out somewhere towards the middle there from TSM, that's a pretty big tool for denying farm over to Iraqi here as well. And already, I mean, there's still a difference of Best Chuck leading in the last hits, but I really feel like with that turret gone, they can really start to try to make that gap grow as best they can. So TSM, first item, Tension Bow, works out great. 3 kills, early turret at the 5-minute mark. Vonsea, though, first item into a Frostburn. There's no crystals here. There's no shatter glasses. It's just going to be a Frostburn. So we'll have to see how that factors into it. But Flash X is the best slow in the game. And at the same time, now we have a Frostburn on top of many, many Glimmer shots here from Vonsea.
Yeah, that's clearly TSM is saying we don't need the damage that comes out of a Shatter Glass on the Kestrel, because if we just slow Gankstars to the oblivion, then Best Chuck will lay down the damage. Vonsea will get there as well. They're really looking for this utility with the Frostburn added on top.
Whoa, Raki got caught at the end of that Glimmer shot, and just look at already. I mean, he's missing basically huge hit points.
Wow.
Vonsea has already bought enough pain with just the Frostburn.
Yeah, that was 500 damage on the one shot, just about coming down onto Araki's face, and that's going to force him to go back to base, heal on up, buys himself a weapon infusion on his way out, because Gankstars are recognizing that despite not really wanting to, they may be forced into a fight by TSM.
And it's a little bit more of a story of whoever's in the lead. If they pick up infusions, you have to match it. It's just, yeah, it'll put you behind in your items, especially, again, when you are behind. But at the same time, if you don't have that power spike to fight, if you're saving up, you don't have the power to negate what your opponents have. And that is just a giant problem. And so, yeah, Araki, he realizes that, he picks it up. Xenotech has his there as well. Rekt has gone from Fountain into the flare gun. And really, that's a good first step. But how effective will it be? Like, TSM has already gone ahead 2,000 gold. They're pushing in for a second turret repeatedly here at this point. And Gankstars are still very much dancing to the tune of TSM.
Yeah, you know, Flash X is in perma-stealth. Vonsea, when he wants to activate it, can do the same thing. You know, Contraption, it can go only so far for Gankstars. Yes, they may know where TSM are, but will they be able to do anything about it? One shot flies out and lands on top of Rekt there. Will take that one for his allies, but this gold miner is being stolen away by TSM. You know, under the eyes of Gankstars, they know it's happening, I believe, due to that flare that flew out, but really there's nothing Gankstars can do at this point. They're just trying their best to get some items under their belts.
Yep, and just using that flare gun on rotation, making sure we know where TSM is. Not sure it helped direct that point, but
still
look at the stealth. Such a long stealth from the Kestrel.
Right, you know, just itemizing into crystal bits and then, you know, turning them. He's going to go towards Shatterglass second item here, Vonsea. So, you know, he hasn't decided against Shatterglass. It's just they wanted the slow first. Oh, Flash X got spotted at the last second. Xenotech gets the intuition that he's about to get dropped on top of, and Vonsea lands a bit of damage, but it's not too much. Reflex block means that that Hellfire Brew won't do huge amounts of damage, but now the siege begins once more. TSM going for this turret with the Glimmer shots onto it. They certainly do a lot of damage from range. They don't really have to commit too hard. Flash X gets rooted, but Araki's getting bursted. Will get the fountain to keep him alive and inside this siege, but Rekt is going low. Xenotech, oh, the burst onto Xenotech. There's nothing that Gankstars can do. Rekt gets taken on down, and Flash X says, go, 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 turret's down. That's Xenotech down. That's the ace for TSM. A triple kill comes out for Vonce's Kestrel, and this is just annihilation from TSM.
That's a big play from Flash right there, but you gotta question what was Rek doing at that point as well. He was so far forward. Xenotech was already trying to make that exit, and Iraqi was not going to be stepping foot forward. Not with Best Chuck, still with that tension bow and a Sorrow Blade as well. So yeah, maybe it was the martyr play. Maybe Rek was trying to make sure that everybody else lived. Maybe he was trying to make sure that the turret lived, but nothing lived by the end of it, and they took the choke point turret on top of that as well. So going from bad to worse as TSM, they do get that Shattered Glass. Quite correct there, Dowsy. Flash and Rek, though, both into Contraption. So now the vision game might change a bit, but that is such an advantage for TSM. 7,000 gold in 10 minutes, my friend.
Yeah, and you mentioned it. Contraption completed for FlashX at the same time, which means that he's going to be able to clear out as much vision as possible on their route into the jungle. That's going to be a breaking point completed. Best Chuck's at his 3 damage item point. Araki has just finished the tornado trigger, which means he's got 2, and he's optimized into a bit of defensive as well. Right now, TSM, they're just pressuring hard. All they need is one team fight, and those Vainglory turrets are going to start falling.
Oh, they have no idea.
They don't. That's wrecked. Wow. Good night. Goodbye. See you again. That's Araki stunned up as Best Chuck comes forward. A triple kill for Best Chuck. Steals away the one shot, and it's like clockwork. All they need is one team fight. These Vain Crystal turrets are going to start falling.
Okay, well, TSM seeing the 12-minute game from Hammers is just like, no problem. You know what? Here, hold my Shatter Glass. Let's get this done. 11 minutes.
My Shatter Glass.
11 minutes, man. 11-minute win. Not too shabby here from TSM, but big aggression early on. I feel like we're seeing a lot of early game comps here, but they're working, right? Nothing stalling out. We've seen in the past from some of these teams, right? You go into the Baron, you take a while to ramp up, or you go into the Koshka, and you have that period of like invincibility where you just need to get the work done, and they stall out, or they never come online. But all today has just been very much this early game coming online and teams executing just very well.
Yeah, certainly. The team that has been in the lead has executed extremely well here for Corn. And as you mentioned, the hold my Shadow Glass, hold my Hellfire Brew, however you want to put it, mentality that TSM is showing, they take that very cleanly. 9-0 at 11.5 minutes. That's game 1 going their way. And I'm eager to see what the desk thought that maybe could have gone differently in that game, perhaps, for Gankstars.
Well, Dowsy, they could have won it. No, but in all seriousness, that was a really convincing, flawless performance from Team Solo Mid. Guys, what were the big issues there for Gankstars? Was it just that they weren't reading the rotates properly? Like, how was Team Solo Mid always able to get in position and execute those kills?
Yeah, like, they got the first kill on Iraqi in lane early. Against a flicker, and especially when your support or your jungler's not with you in lane, you cannot overextend even past your turret. You have to farm very safely on your turret, use Ringo's range. Iraqi just overextended slightly on his side of the lane and still got bursted down with the flicker Gwen combo. Like I said, once they get the slows on Ringo, he's toast. And then TSM just continued to push that early game lead, and they picked a lot of good fights because Gankstars needed to not engage and avoid fights because Vonsi was 2 or 3 levels ahead. Yeah. And that's how you snowball, is when you're so ahead of levels, and the Rekt is only level 7 against a level 11 Kestrel, he's going to get blown up.
All right, let's have a look at a replay real quick. This one is from later into the game, although this game was over before Kraken even spawned. Look at the turnaround from TSM.
And 3 glimmer shots, and Iraqi Zoro was on a sliver of health. That's just the advantage Vonsi had out of
Glimmer
this
hot,
jungle.
baby. They didn't like that one. They didn't like that one at all. All right, well. TSM, I mean, they go for the dive here. FlashX doesn't even die because Von C and Best Chuck have the presence of mind to kill the turret on time. Really, I mean, just the synergy, the chemistry between these players. They've been together for a long time now, and it shows. They play these initiations pretty much perfectly.
Yeah, you can't let a Kestrel poke you like that. You have to engage, like how Hammers played against Tempo Storm. They always engage onto the Kestrel. They were ready to jump on her, because if you let a Kestrel play to her win condition, which is poke, get you low, and then you're just all of a sudden playing defensively, you won't have a good chance to win those fights.
I feel like these fights with Kestrel, they're not so dissimilar from some of the things we talk about with Samuel, where it's like, okay, he throws down Drifting Dark, you got to go in. You can't let him utilize that, right? With Kestrel, when she starts committing to a fight, she actually runs out of arrows, and then maybe you have that opportunity to go back in, you know, force her to do something. force her to not just wait and safely restock on those. We're into draft number 2. Team Solo Mid against Gankstars. Glaive going to be the first ban here. Gankstars, what are they going to go for?
They can potentially ban Lance or Lyra here. I think those are... Oh, they're going to just take with a Gwen right away, right off the bat. They don't want TSM on that Gwen.
I mean, TSM, they have plenty of options now. They could pick up the Kestrel that they were just so dominant with if they want to go the Hammers esports mentality, but they're going to go with the Lyra instead. So first picking the healer there.
Yeah, Lyra is a good pick. It's always a good pick on A side that a lot of teams do. Gankstars now has Lance open, so they'll probably pick the Lance into the Lyra, and then they can pick Kestrel, or they're actually going to go with the Adagio, so they might go Adagio Lance, which is actually a very strong combination. Adagio was actually open last game, and no one picked it. So it's interesting Gankstars will go with Adagio, and they've been actually successful on Adagio. I think with the ban here, they will most likely ban Koshka unless they want to take it away on the next pick here. So I think they might leave that open and ban something else. So they're going to ban the Kestrel. And TSM will most likely ban Koshka, I believe. We'll see if they decide to do that. But again, with the healer, Koshka isn't as dominating when you have a healer.
The Adagio is actually Gangstar's most played hero across the entire season. They've picked that up 14 times now with this game included. So they really do like the hero, even despite the slight nerfs in this current patch. Kestrel going to get banned away. There goes the Flicker. Team Solo Mid not going to let that one go through. That Adagio Flicker combo is just so strong.
Yeah, it's really, really good. With Gwen off the board, there are certainly fewer of the strong laners right now. Ringo and Vox still available. Baron can be good in the right circumstances, and this Adagio could also be in lane. What would you like to see Gankstars do with it? Would you like to see it in the lane?
Yeah, I would lane and take Lance. They definitely want to put Rekt on Lance and lane the Adagio here, and then they can put Xeno on Blackfeather, which he is extremely strong on Blackfeather. Yeah, I think he's won most of his matches as Blackfeather, so they're going to take the secure Lance here. TSM will probably take Petal, and potentially a weapon carry like Ringo or Vox. Vox looks pretty good, honestly. Vox and Petal are pretty decent. They're mobile, they can dodge Lance route, so I think TSM will most likely go with that, or they may even take Samuel and risk it a little bit here, and take Samuel with Vox, for example, is a good pick as well, because if they're anticipating a Blackfeather pickup, Samuel and Vox are pretty good against Blackfeather.
Yeah, Vox is a hero that TSM has a very, very strong win rate on, almost a 90% win rate for them with that hero, so they're going to go ahead and pick it up again here.
Why not? The numbers back it up.
Oh, and they're going to go with Skye. Interesting.
We've seen Von C on Skye just a handful of times. It's only been like 2 or 3 games that they've played, but when it works, it has looked absurdly dominant.
All right, Gankstars, they got to think about their last pick here. They probably weren't expecting the Skye. I can't imagine they were expecting that Skye. But, does that make them want to change their mind? Are they still thinking about Blackfeather if they're along the same thought line as us?
I think the Blackfeather would still work out very well for them. You have that opportunity to build the Poison Shiv. It's one of Xenotech's better heroes, as Suijay was saying. He's won most of the games with it. It's actually about a 71% win rate for him on the Blackfeather, and it's one of their most played heroes to go along with that, having played it, I believe, 7 times now, or 8 times now with this game included. So definitely some comfort picks on both sides of the fold.
You've got to assume, though, that TSM expects this Blackfeather.
Oh, yeah.
After the performance last week especially. So they clearly don't think that it's going to be enough to win into the Skye and the Vox. Talk to me about this composition. Skye, Vox, Lyra. We haven't seen a ton of Skye. When we have, it's normally been Crystal. Probably going to be Crystal here as well. Does it work nicely with that Lyra and the Vox, too?
It can work very nicely. The whole composition is going to be focused on a lot of mobility and just keeping your opponents off guard by not necessarily knowing where a target is going to be at any given moment. Yeah,
but Skye is so risky to pick into Lance, because Lance actually is really good against Skye, especially when you can land the root and then get a Githyan wall on her. So we'll see how Vonsi's going to be able to outplay and dance around Rex Lance here.
All right, guys, who do you think is going to take game number 2?
I still believe Team Solo Mid is just a better team right now.
Yeah, based on TSM synergy and decisiveness, I think they're going to take this game as well.
All right, well, this could be our last game of the day for North America and for the broadcast. Let's hand it on over to Dalcy and Forecourt Jester to find out if it is.
We see this composition very often from Gankstars, Araki Zoros, Adagio, Xenotech's Black Feather, and, you know, Tasty Bacon, quite rightfully so, said these are comfort picks. When I reached out to Xenotech last week after his Black Feather play, he told me he doesn't even like the hero. So it's like someone being held down against his will, just playing a spectacular Black Feather for us to watch. Dance, Marky, dance!
I have this vision of just like Araki Zoro holding, I don't know, like Xenotech's makeup hostage. Like, you play it well. You can't be the Ghoul King otherwise. But, I don't know. Just mind goes to weird places sometimes. But
Right.
Xenotech is on the Black Feather again. We'll have to see if they can repeat some of their past successes here with it. But Best Chuck, Vox, Sky, Flash X here on top of this ladder. It seems like almost a kind of standard comp from TSM.
Yeah, no, this is very 2.3 here. It's nothing out of the ordinary from TSM. You know, I expect to see this in every one of my solo queue games if the draft goes well for us in solo queue. And TSM have a really strong composition, you know. But you know, from Gankstars, despite our jokes, despite our our puns, like, they're very good at this composition from Gankstars. You know, Araki Zoro, his Adagio is really good. Xenotech, his Black Feather is like spectacular. I love watching it. And Rekt, he's a really good Lance. So when you put it all together, they've got some really strong hero picks as Rekt almost finds a Giphian wall to stop Best Chuck from going home.
Yeah, I kind of did a double take. Just like, oh, what? And yeah, he missed, but that's fine. It doesn't really affect too much at this point. Now, compared to the last game, I would expect to see something of a slower matchup. Maybe it's a 12-minute snowball win from TSM last round. These kind of heroes that they take this time feels like it'll be something more towards the mid-game dominance, late-game dominance, as Vox will scale up very nicely, Von C will scale up very nicely. But at the same time, it's TSM. They are known for aggressive plays, especially Von C out in the jungle. Like, why would he farm the jungle if he could just farm you instead? So I'm keeping an eye on Von C, but I would definitely expect something a little slower this round from them.
Yeah, no, try and slow down the pace, make sure that they don't allow Gankstars to kind of get on top of them with it. You know, TSM, they love playing a slow and calculated style, and they certainly want to get this guy into a good position. Oh! Best Chuck, oh no! That was a great prediction coming out of Rekt, and he just read Chuck like a book. First blood gonna go Araki Zoro's way, and what an immense impale from Rekt.
Rekt, yeah, I saw this. Like, that's not gonna hit, and then Best Chuck kind of just reflexed at that point. It's like, all right, somebody's coming at me. Sonic Zoom, nuts. All right, yeah. So Rekt, really good stuff. Got some of the first kill, and so we'll have to see if Gankstars will continue on with that trend. But they were also all up in the lane, right? That happened because all three of them were there. They're able to combine power. TSM kind of was nowhere at that point. I think Flash X was just coming back from jungle. Von C was off doing his own thing there as well. So a little bit earlier grouping was rewarded here from Gankstars.
Yeah, certainly, and this is exactly what they want. Get that early kill onto Araki, try and get the alternating current going early. If he then itemizes down some movement speed, perhaps journey boots early, and Gankstars are able to, you know, get on top of this Sky, on top of this Vox early, then they can do work. But Xenotech's in trouble. He is in a lot of trouble as Von C's charging forward. Rekt going to be the new target as they pop their boots to outrun. But can they outrun a forward barrage? Von C wants the kill. Has he got fear, Von C? No, he's got backs in mind and Xenotech to find in the jungle. This is going to be a siege on all fronts. Xenotech in trouble as he gets aggressed onto Rekt coming up to try and support him. Can they turn this around? They're going to look to do so. Von C's dipping and diving. Giphian wall. There's the Impale as well. But Best Chuck is behind them. TSM going to turn this around with a double kill for Flash X.
I mean, they expected Flash X to come through, but they did not expect the Best Chuck to be there as well. And yeah, that was actually really good play from the Gankstars because you saw Rekt, he walked out, he made sure Von C was between him and the wall. He's able to get the Githian, able to get the Impale, but a 3v2 already hurt from the previous encounter. Yeah, it's just too much right there. So 2-1. And I felt like Xenotech actually might have been able to get the kill. He did miss his on points that fight. Had those actually landed, might have been enough of a difference. But that's going to go under the what if category for now.
The what if. I love that. Love that pile on my desk. All those, you know, 50, 2020. Man, my mind is not in the right spot
50-50 hindsight? Is that what you're going to go with? All right.
I have all the best hindsights here, Forecourt. Mine is 50-50. Yours is 2020.
Yeah, I bow down. Yeah.
But yeah, you know, it is always that case. But instead of reflecting on the past, let's look towards the future. TSM, they've got themselves a 1,000 gold lead at this early stage. Gankstars, they want to continue putting aggression on top of Bestchuck, and they're going to dive forward. But here comes Vonsi, level 6, and he's got to trap them all into the fight with a death from above. Fountain keeps Bestchuck alive. Vonsi with the forward barrage, straight onto Xenotech and FlashX. He wants to go forward. The Gideon Wall going to push them back for now. Araki now has to move his butt, or he's going to get chased down by Vonsi. There it is, the forward barrage. Xenotech, though, will not go down, and Rekt gets out of dodge. Gankstars are so low, and I can't see TSM letting this turret go without looking for it.
It's very likely going to be dropping here, Dowsy. Big problem with that fight is that Gankstars expected the 3v1 up against Bestchuck, did not expect the 3v3. They were not equipped. If they had any idea that was happening, they wouldn't have done it.
That's, wow, just a kill going over. Like, they trade their lives, and actually, you know what? I think trading their suits Gankstars, it means that they can't siege the turret anymore, and they don't necessarily lose anything for it.
Well, they lost out Vonsi, but you're right. It's a better trade for Gankstars because they're behind. They were being pressured out, and they've actually given a lot of time here for regen here as well. But the reason that 3v3 would not have happened if they had known all three was there is Rekt just got Fountain now. He did not have Fountain that fight. It was a big difference between the offensive pressures right there. TSM was able to turtle up between Lyra and her Fountain, and you saw the difference, right? Like, by the end of the match, TSM virtually unscratched by that, but whereas it was not the same for Gankstars. That's why TSM was pushing the turret, because they knew that there was not going to be the same level of sustain.
We saw this last week from Xenotech. He got himself a Shimmer Steel first item, didn't get the Serpent's Mask first, the Breaking Point first, straight into utility. And I get the idea behind it. It's, you know, we landed Impale, and then Xenotech slows them, Araki lays down tons of damage with his newly acquired Alternating Current, but it just didn't work out last week.
And it didn't work out a little bit earlier today with the Shiver Steel on the Black Feather, but I'm a little concerned that Xeno, if he doesn't even go into like any of the lifesteal out there available, like a Serpent's Mask or that Poison Shiv, he might actually have some sustain problems up against this, because Bestchuck and Vonsi do have some pretty decent kiting maneuvers available to them.
Not only that, we got this sustain build coming out of Bestchuck. Goldmine has started up, Gankstars charging forward, they do slow Vonsi, and actually the damage is coming out. That's the Shimmer Steel coming out in great sights. And oh no, Bestchuck rooted, that's going to be 2 kills going over to Gankstars as they make the moves work. That's what I was talking about, you know, if they can slow down the priority targets and get Araki's aura on top of them, then the Shimmer Steel works out really well for Gankstars, and actually this time they're making it work great. This is a little bit risky though. They're fighting over a Crystal Sentry and Araki's tanking up. They look like they will get it, and actually no one from TSM apart from FlashX are really in the range to stop them. So it's just going to be more gold going Gankstars' way.
Flash didn't see the one back in the bush, but flares out the other. And just a really good pick. Like, Rekt is just absolutely nailing these Githian walls, he's nailing these impales, he's setting up, and Xenotech, he's still low even after that fight. I still would highly recommend into some kind of lifesteal down the line, but for now, that's just some real good momentum going over to Gankstars. Like 4-3, they've caught up a little bit of the gold. It's not a big difference between them. Bestchuck, on the other hand, look at his sustain. He not only has a Lyra to go with that fountain that she's going to be carrying, but he's going into the double lifesteal himself. And there's his Shiv, and there's his Serpent's Mask.
Yeah, you know, in this scenario, it makes a lot of sense. I can't remember who it was. It was one of the North American pros. They criticized this build and said, you know, people need to stop building it unless it makes sense. But in this kind of scenario, it makes a lot of sense because you've got Black Feather who heals with the Serpent's Mask. You have Araki Zoro who's going to heal with his own abilities. So, and because Black Feather is going to be diving forward on top of your face, Bestchuck wants to try and sustain and get into the defensive tree as soon as possible to try and withstand that damage. So I can fully see in this scenario why you would go that double sustain build. We'll just have to see if it works out, if Vonsi can be enough of a threat to really allow Bestchuck to stack up his breaking point when he optimizes into it. But now more siege coming out of TSM. Gankstars are actually split here, and they're not looking the healthiest. This could be a turret going for TSM.
Xenotech's going to be able to come back fairly healthy, but yeah, Rekt's a little bit worse for wear at this point. The last note I'm going to bring up about the Shiver Steel is the timing of it is actually great, because Rekt is looking for an engage.
Yeah, well, he's not going to find one able to combat roll, but there's the wait for it. That's going to be TSM looking for the engages. FlashX goes forward, but Xenotech wants the fight. On points both the carries, as that's going to be FlashX in trouble. Big Verse of Judgment, but it doesn't quite find the damage necessary, and that's going to be kills going both ways. But Best Chuck with a double means TSM get the best of it, and Araki, he is on an escape route. He does not want any part of this turret siege.
So a really kind of gutsy engage there from Rekt. He hit the boots, he looked for a target, couldn't find one, and then kind of made a U-turn at the end of the little bit of a jog that he had right there. TSM was able to lay in a little bit of damage, then the re-engage happened, but already, you know, there's that big disadvantage there from Gankstars. So they trade it 2 for 1. They lose out turret by the end of it, though, because they just do not have anybody left on the fold at that point. So definitely a big win for TSM. They go ahead 2,000 gold or so. And Xenotech, like, when we had this Shiver Steel first, like, the timing of it was great because there's no reflexes, there's no atlases, no nothing out there, right? So they found those kills, and then he gets into the Serpent's Mask. That fight, though, Flash X had the Atlas ready to go. We didn't really have the reflexes. We still don't actually have the reflexes here. It's from Xenotech to deal with that. So as soon as he went in, he got reflexed, and that will curb down not only the sustain from him, but the damage out there as well. And, you know, there's not really, you know, an Atlas available here from Gankstars yet. Like, Xeno's just gone into his tier 2 armor, Rekt into the tier 2 armor there as well. So you're probably going to see the double sometime soon, but this is still a real good situation for TSM.
Yeah, it's going to be Gankstars looking to fight here. They're looking to get straight onto the backline, and that's a big impale, but they're just so healthy, this backline. There's not enough damage coming out of Gankstars. Araki was not able to get into the fight. Oh god, this is going to be destruction! There it is, an ace for TSM, a double for Best Chuck, and you know what? I'm looking at the builds here, and Best Chuck is just shutting down and sustaining so much. If Xenotech does not get a poison shiv, then there's no way Araki or Gankstars are really able to lay down the damage onto this box. That's my prediction.
It's definitely a big difference in power when it comes to the healing or the sustain between the two teams. Like, yes, Flash X has himself the sigil, but he also has that fountain. But that mortal wounds means that, you know, TSM can blow up whoever they really wish, and they blew up Rekt. You know, one of the tankier members of the team. He's going to be that Captain Lance. He's typically not the guy you focus down, but the reduction in healing, the damage output between him and between Best Chuck and Von C was just way too much for Rekt to handle. And again, there's no Atlas here to curb down Best Chuck either. Again, they trade out 3 for 1 that time, as Von C did drop. You know, Xenotech able to at least get a kill from it, but yeah, it's just such a mid-game like comp from TSM, and it's working out great.
The Gankstars want another fight, this time perhaps maybe on the same page. Xenotech dives onto Von C, but the rest are going on to Best Chuck, and wow. Best Chuck is just cleaning house. First kill goes to Von C, Best Chuck in the midst of it all, and he's going to take down Xenotech, and Rekt, well, he can't go anywhere. It's a double for Von C, and Xenotech and the Gankstars, they're just trying desperately to catch TSM, you know, out in the wilderness, but TSM are storming ahead in these fights, and it just feels like Gankstars are throwing more and more gold their way.
It's looking very dire for this choke point turret. Not entirely convinced it's going to drop, but an immense gold payout is going to be the TSM reward as we just pushed it lane. Best Chuck takes the jungle there as well, and all of a sudden you call it 5,000 gold between these teams. We don't have the damage from Gankstars, and conversely as well, they don't have the defense. That's going to be an Atlas here from Xenotech, so prospects went up a little bit right there, but Best Chuck is already into that Aegis, and Von C does not care about your Atlas whatsoever. So it's already like, as soon as these power spikes come online for Gankstars, we're just one step ahead from TSM due to just the way that the fights have kind of come out, and the results are just very clear.
Yeah, you know, the defensive tree, this is what makes this build so powerful for Best Chuck, is that he is almost full build at 14.5 minutes as far as offensive and defensive items are concerned. And, you know, it's just not the same story when you look across the board. Araki hasn't even finished his 3rd damage item yet. And they're struggling, Gankstars, to really make these engages work unless they can burst down Best Chuck currently in the state of game that they're at. Unless the poison shiv is, you know, bought and he doesn't get the healing that he needs through his double sustain build, then it just seems impossible to kill the box in the middle of the fights. Like, you're gonna really need some massive burst to come forward.
Dang, looks like I'm having a technical difficulty here, Mr. Dowsey.
No worries. Well, it is 15 minutes, and Kraken, she's going to join us once more, my beauty, on the map to witness some great Vainglory action. We do see the infusions come forward for TSM. They've got those level 12s going, and Gankstars, well, they're both all going back to base looking to purchase up some items. That's going to be Metal, Jacket completed, and the infusions coming out for both Xenotech and Rekt. So Gankstars recognizing the next fight is really important. They even get that infusion onto Rekt for the increased stun and root durations on his abilities. But there's so much vision available to TSM on the map here for Court. And if just Team Solar Mid, they know exactly where Gankstars are the entire time. They can't really step anywhere without TSM knowing.
It's hard to get a gank off in that regard. Like, if everything's scouted out, there's no surprises. You can't pull anything out of your hat. And looking for the engage, like that metal jacket on Vox, just I think just seals the deal. I don't think Best Chuck's going to die at all this game.
It doesn't seem like it. Araki has one of his own, so we'll have to see if that's enough to keep him alive in these fights. But TSM, they're rounding, looking for Gankstars. Gankstars going to see that flare fly out. They have an idea that TSM are ready to fight. Another infusion comes out for Araki here. So everyone's infused for Gankstars, and TSM, what they're doing is just pushing down the lane here. Gankstars are forced to, make the rotate over at risk of losing their choke point turret. Perhaps they look for a fight, try and catch TSM out. Araki's certainly looking to try and stack up that broken myth, and Xenotech's going to come around the side as well. This could be a chance to catch someone out and maybe blow them up. Rekt knocks everyone away, and they're going to look to try and get onto the backline. That death from above is going to hold Rekt in position, but Araki is behind them. Vonsi's in trouble. They're going onto the sky this time, but it's going to allow Best Chuck so much room to just do work. An Impale lands on top of him, but he's going to get blown up by Xenotech. They managed to do it this time, but Vonsi will find a return. Doesn't matter. Araki gets the kills, and without Best Chuck in the fight, Gangstar's going to take the fight here. FlashX, well, he's most likely going to get away. He is Lyra, he has himself a portal, and he has a turret to get to as well. So Gankstars with a 2-for-1, we'll have to see what they can get for it.
Well, a little bit more unexpected, but I mean, Gankstars in the defense holding means that they gotta push and get as many objectives as they can with just such a short amount of time with those death timers.
Yeah, no, it's a hard task. There's no turrets really available. The minion wave was too far back. So they're really just looking to try and steal away as many camps here, but Aegi's going to be completed for Araki Zoro, so he's got himself his defensive items, and what a big difference it makes when Xenotech is able to get onto the backline and really slow down his opposition. It just allows Araki to get in there and do damage.
Well, maybe the Shiver Steel will work out in the end after all. I'm still just not super sold on it today, though, Daz. It's not been having a great success rate.
It's, yeah, it can be hit and miss. Sometimes you even see Black Feathers sell it towards the end of a game to pick up perhaps like a Poison Shiv. But we'll have to see. Xenotech hasn't even been able to get into his third damage item yet. If you could call Shiver Steel a damage item, I guess it's not really. He's just been
really
stuck
not.
in a... It's not, right? It's an offensive item for sure, don't get me wrong. But we're going to see another fight as Rekt looks for it. This Kraken's been started up, and oh no, Rekt is in so much trouble. Mortal wounds and the engage coming out. He gets bursted on down. Oh, Gankstars are caught between a Kraken and the rest of TSM as Best Chuck's going to finish off Araki, and Vonsi is looking for Xenotech. A huge series strike looking for the forward barrage as well. Xenotech, he can't get out of here, and he's going to get taken down for an ace, and the minion wave, it's set up for Best Chuck to push into the base. They're going to be able to find themselves a choke point if they want it, and actually falling back, just going to let the minions do the work. It's Kraken time for TSM.
A minion wave, like, perfectly positioned just to kind of follow that up. So choke point, turret, and Kraken is going to be putting Gankstars onto their last life here. I might want to phone a friend and see what else they can do in order to bring this one back. But yeah, I thought for perhaps a little bit more of a resurgence. Finally maybe that mid-game treating them well, but man, like Vonsi just tearing through. Best Chuck full build is really hard to deal with this early on. Did he actually finish off those boots? Well, he did. Yep. He is full, all done. You're at the 40,000 gold mark. I mean, typically this is where you start seeing people max out, but Best Chuck 6-3, 173 of those last hits, and just doing wonders with the double sustain.
Yeah, as said, unless Gankstars can blow up Best Chuck, then he sustains through the fight so easily, and we have seen Xenotech successfully being able to blow him up. But now with the Kraken pushing into the base, it's going to be an unlikely story here for Gankstars. TSM looking to take this one, but a good impale straight onto Best Chuck. Xenotech's in the middle of it all, but Araki is in the death from above, and Xenotech's losing his life in the process. He gets the heals, he's charging forward, they're trying to kill Best Chuck here, but Araki can't get into the fight, and that's going to be Xenotech falling with the last auto attack. Araki goes down as well, and it just leaves Rekt all on his lonesome as he rushes over the wall. He's going to try and port back to base, but he's not even porting. This is done. This is dusted. TSM are going to take game 2 of this series over Gankstars.
And that completes everything into a 2-0 today, but again, like, first game from these guys, the big rush down, the snowball, set themselves up, they're feeling good, they come into this game, and a little bit shaky, you know, I gotta say, Gankstars definitely one of those top teams. They're able to take a lot of these mid-game momentum spikes and put them back into their favor, but they're just not able to hold on to them. They're just too far behind. And double sustain, it's definitely something to say about Poison Shiv. On the box, on the Black Feather Light, if you see healers out there, it's just more and more common now that you see these Shivs, and that's just how a lot of these successful teams do it. You curb down the heals, you blow somebody up because they can't get healed out because of the mortal wounds, and you just rinse, repeat, you get the win, and that's how you become champions.
Absolutely. TSM looking strong. They will make it to day 2, as mentioned, forecourt. Really important for them to be able to do so, but it does mean that they will be playing up against Cloud9 in the semifinals, and that is going to be a brilliant game tomorrow. Well, with North America all wrapped up and in speedy style as well, there's nothing left for me to do but say goodnight from me in forecourt and hand it back to the desk to break down that last series.
Good night, Dowsey and forecourt. Sleep tight. Man, what a bunch of games. That was seriously impressive stuff. Team Solo Mid looked really, really strong today.
I mean, every team that won looked really strong.